NFL action on Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific kick here on Fox. We got the San Francisco 49ers at the New York Football Giants. We're seeing 41 the total, -4. That's the 49ers laying on the road here, Dave. Any interest in getting involved with the 49ers and Giants on Sunday?
Well, it's going to be really difficult to assess these two teams right now with all the injury issues. San Francisco takes a huge hit with Bosa going down. And he wasn't the only one. I don't know at this point whether Garoppolo's going to play or not. I guess the word is that they hope he can go, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether he's going to play, and it might not be a bad spot to, you know what, if he's not close to 100%, just let him sit for the week. They're playing the Giants. It's not like they're playing one of the good teams in the league. And the Giants, who were bad to begin with, get even worse with Barkley being out for the season with the ACL. Disastrous injury for the Giants. He is clearly the most important player on that team. And you've got to think that this is going to be a long season for the Giants. A long look at their quarterback to see if they've got to enter the sweepstakes for one of the QBs that's going to be out there at the end of the season. It's a little too soon to do that with him being in just his second season, but there's already doubters as to whether he's going to be a long-term fit for the Giants at quarterback. San Francisco has the better talent, but you know, they haven't exactly been spectacular their first 2 weeks. Beating the Jets was no big deal. They were handled by the Arizona Cardinals at home in week 1. Look, it's scary to even consider an under in the NFL right now. You saw this weekend games just going way over the total. But that's the only way I can look here. The 49ers probably going to keep it pretty conservative on offense. The Giants don't have any choice but to try and work their way down the field and maybe hit a pass here and there. I just think this is going to be a fairly fast-moving game, and that does favor the under. I doubt if I'll play it because I won an under in week 1 on the Bengals game. And after watching what's taken place in the first 2 weeks, I don't know if I'll play another under bet the whole season. It is just scary stuff. But that's the way I lean in this game.
And it is a low total here, Ralph. We're seeing pretty much 41s across the board here. So any interest in that total, Ralph, or maybe the 49ers or Giants at the number of 4?
Hey, Dave and Drew, on WagerTalk today, I pulled up the first 2 weeks in the NFL. From 2015 to 2019, if you looked at the scoring the first 2 weeks of the year, you were at 42 points per game. The NFL, the first 2 weeks in 2020, those teams are averaging 51 points per game. Hence, that totals of 42 or higher have gone 16, 8, and 2, 67% to the over. Couple notes on this game. You know, Dave talked about Bosa injury. Add in Solomon Thomas, add in running back Mostert, Garoppolo, and then remember they were without their tight end and without D Ford and without Richard Sherman already. So you are talking, you know, perhaps 7, not only starters, but 7 all-stars, you know, caliber players not being on this roster. Now, one thing I normally do like with a team like the 49ers, when you have these long road trips, you stay where you are or close to it. Well, they're playing in the exact same stadium back-to-back games. It's only the third time that's happened. They can't stay in New York City, so they are traveling back to West Virginia to the Greenbrier Resort. And from what I've tracked, the last 6 times, teams are 5-1 in that second game. Why? You have no distractions. These players that normally go home and deal with wives and kids and bills are now spending the entire week amongst their teammates, just bonding and talking football. So to me, it's a very positive for the 49ers when you have these trips. The negatives are this. They all complained about that field. They all, to a man, said this is the worst field we've played on. What happens when you had 4 or 5 players injured because they blamed it on the field? Now what are those players going to have with this mentality this week playing on that same field? You know, I just don't know. There's so many mindset questions. You look at the Giants. The Giants had 291 yards game 1, 295 yards game 2. 2 games. An NFL team in 2 games, 52 yards rushing, 1.3 yards per carry. And now you take Barkley out of the mix. I think Daniel Jones is going to be in for hurt against a team that has a good defensive line. Again, we know that the 49ers are bereft of a few starters this week. I agree with you guys. I I think the 49ers still have the talent, but I'm not going to lay over a field goal with them. I think the game is going to lean under, but with the mentality that they have on defense, if you get behind, you're going to play and you're going to play to score. So, it's a game that I actually like the New York Giants in the first quarter of this game and or the first half of this game. I think San Francisco comes out very hesitant because of the field. They play light-footed early. They make some mistakes. They're not into it mentally. But I think in the second half, they think, okay, we have to end up winning this game. So while I think the 49ers are clearly the better team, I think the psyche is going to have a lot to do with it. And I don't say that very often about an NFL team. But to me, I may actually look at the Giants and or the under for the first quarter and see how that pans out.
I want to counter with something, though, and call it a question. If the 49ers are unhappy with the field conditions, imagine what the Giants must be like. They'll have to play half their games there, and you could very well look at the Barkley injury from last week and say maybe that was turf-related too, because it wasn't from a hit. That also kind of falls under the non-contact. I mean, he got hit, but it just didn't look like a damaging hit, and you wonder, he'd also had an injury before that. Which was, I don't know whether you could call that turf-related or not, but I don't know if that mentality might even be worse for the Giants, considering that's their home, that they might not be enjoying, Ralph.
Yeah, and they may just not be saying it, Dave, because there were arguments last year that this field is the worst in the NFL, but I have not heard Jets players say it, and I have not heard Giants players say it. There may be a kibosh from the top down saying, don't bash our home field. So They may have that mentality, you're correct, but they just don't say it out loud where the opposition blares it through a trumpet. So, so many unique things. Like I said, I love the 49ers in the position of staying and bonding, but, they spent all of their effort just complaining about the field for so long. What kind of mentality do they have moving forward?
Dave, I guess we could bring up the argument. Maybe they're used to the home field and it adds to a little bit of a home field advantage just for argument's sake, no?
I don't know. I mean, it's really tough to say. And what makes it even tougher to say is that they're a very bad football team. So, well, it's true. That whole division is just a train wreck right now. Dallas was incredibly fortunate to win last week. Washington isn't much. The Eagles, I think, are sub 500 in the last since the beginning of 2018 with Wentz. They're actually now a sub 500 team. And the Giants just aren't good. So, to me, it's one of the most difficult games on the schedule this week to even come up with a solid opinion on, between all the negatives that surround both teams and the fact that, the injuries are just incredible right now on the San Francisco side.
Yeah, this video had it all, guys. Great stuff. I mean, bringing about injuries. I mean, there was 7 ACL injuries this past weekend in the NFL. That's as high as I can remember. Talking about the field. We even got the Greenbrier. That's where the 49ers are staying, from Ralph Michaels. Good stuff there, guys. Follow Dave on Twitter at Dave Koken. Ralph on Twitter at CalSportsLV. And also, guys, remember, WagerTalk.com, SportsMemo.com, each and every Monday, $9 Monday. That means all plays, no matter the day it goes off. If it kicks off later in the week, still $9 on Monday. $9 Monday, WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com.